to the Believe in Badger Football podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by betonline.ag. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, ringing in the new year with one of our favorite people in the whole world. It's All-American Super Bowl champion Travis Beckum. Travis, Happy New Year, buddy.
To you as well, Matt. I appreciate you having me again. Happy New Year.
You have an open invitation. As is no surprise to anyone who watches the show, you guys all know how great Travis is and how great he is at his side job, or I guess you could call it his side job, his main gig now of DJing. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later as well. Before we get into that, want to remind you guys that we are presented by betonline.ag, where they continue to be your number one source for all of your online sports wagering needs. You name it, they've got it over there at BetOnline. NFL, NBA, college football, looking at that national title game. Georgia opens up as a huge 13.5-point favorite against TCU. Shout out to my cousin Douglas, senior at TCU. He's beside himself this year. Even more, though, I mean, college basketball, golf, esports, it's all over there at betonline.ag. Head on over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today using our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. All right, Travis, let's start with the latest news in Badgerland, and that is ringing in the new year with transfer quarterback Tanner Mordecai. He's got some pretty big numbers. Accounted for 10 touchdowns in a game last year, 9 through the air. Travis, just first of all, like, how do you feel as like a former pass catcher, seeing just all of these arms coming in? Like, what's your opinion so far on what you've seen the last couple weeks out of Longo and Fickle and company?
Well, obviously those guys have been here for an extremely short period of time, and in that short period of time have done amazing things. And hopefully it's kind of eased a lot of Badgers fans' feelings in regards to the decision to not bring back Jim Leonhard. But my feelings towards what's going on, I haven't been this excited about Badger football. It's kind of like bittersweet to me because I wish that I would have had these kind of options when I was playing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my quarterbacks. Love John Stocco, Tyler Donovan, Allen Everidge, Dustin Shear, Scott Tolzien. Those are guys I built chemistry with. I didn't play with Scott, but he was there when I was there. But just to have options, and it's like we get Nick Evers, and I'm like, okay, now we're set. Then we get I forget, it's the 2024 recruit,
Mabry Matoyer.
Yes, then we get Tanner, and I'm like, this is so exciting for Badger football. This is the best offseason that UW has ever had. Now, with all these quarterbacks, we got to get some more receivers because, I mean, after watching Tanner, a lot of his, they're going 4 wide receivers times empty backs. And I've seen it a little bit in regards to the bowl game. We went 5 wide once, and then we ran Braylon out into the flat. But I love seeing that. I love seeing something different from this program. And I'm extremely excited for the future of this program.
Yeah, I think, excitement around Badgerland is at an all-time high. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, like, it really hurt a lot of people. It stung a lot of people when Coach Leonhard wasn't retained, right? He is a golden child, a prodigal son, whatever you want to call him. He is that to Wisconsin football.
Yep.
But it's become pretty clear pretty quickly how modernized this entire football staff is from top down in just how they've brought over an entire recruiting department from Cincinnati, how they are modernizing the quarterback position. Now, what's really interesting to me is that they've gone for all 3 of these guys, between Mordecai, Evers, and Matoyer, all 3 guys from Texas. And the state of Texas produces quarterbacks like it's no one's business.
Yeah.
Wisconsin needs to invest in more talent pipelines. What better place to do it than to get Texas quarterbacks? Because you also know those quarterbacks know all the receivers, all those guys growing up playing 7-on-7 year round in Texas. From what I understand, there are going to be probably 2 portal receivers brought in before classes start up again, which I believe
Yeah.
is right after MLK Day. They're targeting two receivers. What types of receivers, though, do you want to see? Because for me, I think it's really important that they get another big body physical guy. You look at a DK, you look at a Dean Ingram, even, Skylar Bell to a little bit of a lesser extent. These guys are all, quick, but a little bit slight of frame. Bell, not so much. Bell's a little bit more of a traditional X. I would like to see them go get another big body, a Quintez Cephas type. What kind of guys do you think that they need to bring in order to be successful in 2023 in the passing game?
I think, and that's a good comparison, because I do think that when I played, we had Paul Hubbard. Paul Hubbard was big. I want to say I was probably 5'10", maybe pounds bigger than Paul Hubbard. And it seems like ever since the sizing of the receivers has kind of dropped off. There was Paul Hubbard when I played. There was Jarvis Minton. If we could get players like, let's go find a Lee Evans. Let's go find a Chris Chambers. Let's go find a Brandon Williams. And I want to say, like, just even playing Oklahoma State, someone like Des Bryant. We need a physical receiver. I know, obviously, bringing the guys in, they may end up being younger, but I think we need someone that's older, that's going to put pressure on these guys. And we need someone that's going to go out and make plays. And again, you watch some of the film from Chase Wolf and just look at the way that he's throwing the ball and the receivers are able to run underneath that ball. I hadn't seen that all year. Okay. And I know that it hits people a certain way in regards to if Chase should have played earlier. Obviously, he was going through some injuries, but his accuracy on the deep ball was awesome. And I hadn't seen that. So if we can get guys that are big physical receivers, great route runners, if we could have someone that's going to be able to specifically key in on that position, I think that's going to make this offense just explode even more. Obviously we have the quarterbacks to do it now. And now it's just putting it all together. Obviously Braylon is going to do what he does. It's going to open up the run game for him. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think, you talk about the guys that can go. I think it's really important to get a guy who turns 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls.
Yeah.
Right. The guy who is big and will take a bit of a beating downfield when he's going up for those catches, but is going to make them because he can out physical the cornerbacks around him. The Big Ten West, for all of its lumps, has some really good secondaries. You look at Illinois, you look at Iowa. Those are some of the best secondaries, not just in the conference, but in the country. You have to have the receivers to be able to compete with those types of physical defensive backs. Let's talk about Mordecai a little bit more. I think it's interesting, this idea of bringing in, this is the first time since Russell Wilson, right, that they have brought in an outside guy to be the guy for 1 year. Yeah. Obviously, Russell Wilson was sort of the original, quarterback transfer that comes in and really changes something in that 1 year that he's there. We're seeing it all the time now. How do you feel about Mordecai as a prospect? Have you gotten to watching the tape on him? And how do you think that he is going to, what will be some of his strengths and maybe other areas that he's going to need to really to hone in on in spring to really get up to speed with Longo's offense?
Well, I think as far as Russell Wilson, I think we got really lucky with Russell Wilson. I don't think that people knew that Russell Wilson had that talent until he got to Wisconsin. We all knew he was a good quarterback, but arguably he had his best season of football when he was at Wisconsin. And just watching Tanner, I was 72 touchdowns over 2 years. That's insane. And obviously this goes along with him having options at receivers. SMU had big physical receivers. They had good tight ends. And again, they have 4 wide receiver sets. They have 5 receiver sets. It's going to, there's a couple games that Braylon, it almost seemed like he struggled in the backfield with reading blitzes off the edge. There's going to be times where we're going to go 4 wide. He's going to be the only back there. So he's going to have to be able to check those hots, check those blitzes and pick those up in order for our quarterback to sit in that pocket and be able to get the ball to our receivers. But he's a very strong arm. He looks very, very, very comfortable back there. And that's the thing is just obviously having a line and knowing that a back is going to be able to pick up that blitzing quarterback or cornerback or DB. But I mean, just the way that he spreads the ball. I mean, if he needs to tuck the ball and run, that's awesome as well. Because obviously you've seen him do that. I think he had like a 65 or 72 yard touch, and he looks good. He looks comfortable doing that as well. So I'm glad that we have a two-dimensional quarterback. Now it's just going to see how that fits in our offense in regards to what receivers we bring in, where we put receivers, who's going to play the slot, and just like seeing what options we have come this spring and then us forward.
Yeah, I think that it's also good to have that competition, obviously, within the quarterback room. I think it's really interesting that Chase chose to come back because, especially even though when they played the game, Mordecai hadn't come in, they already had Evers. People knew they were sort of still sniffing around for that 1 year stopgap, whether it was going to be Brennan Armstrong or if it was going to be turned into Tanner Mordecai, which I think is an outstanding choice in a marriage between system and quarterback. And at the end of the day, like I said, I love this Texas pipeline, right? I love that just bring them in. And it's interesting to me that both Mordecai and Evers were recruited by Lincoln Riley, have grown up knowing each other, like have a connection already and like a built-in like respect and camaraderie for each other. I think that's really interesting when you're bringing in multiple guys from the portal that, you know, if you brought in a couple guys that didn't know each other, there could be some serious friction there that could cause issues in the locker room. We know that, you know, oftentimes there are, especially when you bring in something like this, you could have a rift in the locker room. You don't want to have that, especially if you're a first year coach. And so I love the fact that these guys know each other, have a good relationship, and have been open about it. Speaking of the new coaching staff and the offense, I was able to talk with Tresh Kekahuna a couple days ago. And one of the interesting things that he said to me was that one of the reasons he recommitted to Wisconsin was that Nick Herbig was in his ear about how good of a guy Coach Fickell was. And I thought that was a really interesting point because we know that a lot of the guys who were very tied to Coach Leonard, obviously, he's been their guy from day one. He's the guy that recruited them. But to have the guys who are on the team, even outgoing, Herbig, especially as a leader, speaking highly of the new coaching staff, that tells me a lot about the relationships that they are already building. What do you know about some of these relationships that are happening between the new staff and how things are sort of meshing sort of behind the scenes?
Well, it's awesome to have that kind of chemistry. I think that word of mouth travels, and it might have been the night of that they brought in Coach Fickell, and I reached out to Clay Cundiff. I'm like, hey, where's your head at? Like, what are the guys thinking? And everyone was on board with it. You know what I mean? Obviously, they look at this guy's history, his track record. He's done amazing things, and he's great with the players. And that's the thing is that a lot of people, I think Coach Chris was great with the players, but a lot of things is they want from a head coach is they want to have the coach be a great recruiter as well. Coach Fickell, I had the privilege to be recruited by Coach Fickell coming out of high school when I was a linebacker. And I know the energy that he brings. He has a winning mentality. This is a guy that we're bringing in that we expect to do great things. Enough with the sitting around and being complacent and treading water. And no, that's not what's going to happen right now for Badger football. And we're here. We're just so long just going this way. It's all uphill now. I mean, we invested a lot of money into him, and the Badger fans, boosters, alumni, they want to see great things, and they're investing their time, their energy into a program that has just been complacent for a very long time. They're bringing in a coaching staff that has been proven, a coaching staff that is going to obviously do great things for this program. Look at what's happened thus far. But to have guys like Nick Herbig say, hey, man, this is a winning coach. I mean, you look at stuff at Skylar Bell. I mean, entered the transfer portal, went to Minnesota.
Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen.
Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen rowed the boat right back to Wisconsin. So I'm excited for this program. And speaking of Skylar Bell, I think that he's probably one of those. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to have to lead for this program. Yes. I don't think that he caught as many balls as he wanted to in the bowl game, but that was fresh. That was 4 weeks of preparation. He did have a nice reverse. Speaking of reverses, 3 reverses in one game for Wisconsin. Where does that come from? I love it. I love it. I love it. So I think it's good that Nick is letting the recruits know, letting the guys know that Fickell is on board. He's a player's coach. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else that we can potentially get out of Luke Fickell and this UW staff.
What do you think it means to be a player's coach today in 2023? Because I think being a player's coach in 2023 is different than being a player's coach in 2005.
Yeah.
When you were coming in. So what does it mean to be a player's coach today?
So, and I was just having a talk with someone earlier, and it's crazy. College football is crazy right now. NIL, transfer portal. NIL has played such a toll on guys' decisions and recruits coming in, even potential guys on the team potentially thinking of jumping ship. And I think now you can't just it's almost like you can't just recruit a guy, play him, and then make it, and then like that's it. It seems as if you have to continue to invest into that player to essentially keep them happy, so they don't unfortunately enter the transfer portal. And to have a guy like Fickell that's able to do on the field great things, but have great chemistry with these players, have a vibe, build a connection with these players, let these guys know, hey, as much as we want to win a Big Ten championship, I want you to be on this field and be the best player that you can be. Let me go and let's have Wisconsin have 9 guys going to the draft. Like that's insane. And I want people to know that yes, this program is going to be successful, and it's going to be successful at producing players, top draft picks. Let's do that. Let's be one of these teams. You watch this Purdue and LSU game, and you see some of the talent that LSU has. Let's start bringing some of that talent this way. And I really think this coaching staff is going to be able to do that.
So what's the position to me? Because, they're obviously clearly addressing defensive back this first cycle, right? They signed 6 high school defensive backs. They just got the nickel back from Boston College. I think it's pronounced Maitre or Maitre.
Yeah.
Out of Boston College to be, I think the starting nickel is where they're expecting him to be. You look at athletes like Amari Snowden, those guys coming in. I think the other position, we talked about wide receiver a little bit, but I think the other position they really need to address is defensive line depth, especially with Keanu Benton going to the draft. I think he's a kid who's going to test so well and that he's going to shoot up draft boards. I wouldn't be surprised to see him picked in the 2nd round just because of his explosiveness at his size. Draft talk, different story for a different day. But I see, they have really no nose tackles now with any real experience. They have 3 defensive ends in Mullins, Thompson, and Rodis Johnson, who are, who have a ton of snaps between them, but no one really on the interior. And I think it's going to be important for them to address defensive tackle. Where else do you see, maybe some loose ends that need to be tied up heading into the spring?
I think it's gonna. I don't know. I think that's almost like an open-ended question in regards to, are we going to run a 3-3-5 here? Mm-hmm. Are we going to stick with a 3-4? Because obviously those are going to be different players. And there's discussion in regards to, will the 3-3-5 work in the Big Ten? But we do need some meat inside. Keanu was a great player. And I'm looking at some of these guys, and I was watching old film and like Chapman. We need guys like that. We need guys that are going to come in, be hungry. And we need to start recruiting them fast, because this is going to be, and I think that defenses do win championships. We've had a lot of amazing things happen on the offensive side of the ball, and I expect guys, great recruits, to come in. People entering the transfer portal because of Mike Tressel coming in, and guys want to play for him. You know what I mean? So I'm excited. I'm excited for what's and the thing is, it's still so early. And I'm excited for what this coaching staff can bring in, but we are going to have to find some meat for the inside, especially at that nose tackle position, and then figure out what we're going to do defensively. I wouldn't mind having some lockdown corners and primarily run a man defense 90% of the time. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that we already know that the linebacker room is stocked beyond stock.
Yep.
They've got athletes everywhere there, even as they lose Herbig, as they lose CJ Getz.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Caden Johnson, TJ Bowlers. I mean, Daryl Peterson is a beast. You look at what
a lot of plays last year.
Look at what Ivan Pace Jr. did for Cincinnati this year. That's Daryl Peterson next season, to an absolute T. He's going to explode next year. But yeah, I'm interested to see, especially from what I've heard, they're going to be running a 3-3-5.
Okay.
They are going to be giving it a go and running that 3-3-5. And I think what's going to be interesting to me is seeing what's the safety rotation. Torchio said he is heading to the draft. So it looks like it's going to be Kamoy Letu and Hunter Wohler, and then Maitre coming over from Boston College as sort of that nickel safety hybrid. I'm really interested, though, to see what that safety rotation is going to look like, because there's so many unknowns on the back end, but that unknown is so exciting. I just want to get back to there's so much juice in the program right now. Just on a day-to-day basis, I get so excited to just what is going to pop up on my phone today.
Exactly. So, and that's what Badger fans should be excited about. And again, we had a lot of exciting news. We had a great Christmas present thus far for what we had from the Badgers, and I'm looking forward to the future and what else we can get out of this. I mean, if you're not excited about Badger football right now, something's wrong with you.
Yeah, and if you're, I've seen criticism, people saying, "Oh, well, I don't want to," we want the Wisconsin way is dead. I don't think the Wisconsin way is dead. I think the Wisconsin way has been modernized to leverage the best parts about it while adapting to the necessities of today's college football landscape.
Yeah, the Wisconsin way is. I mean, you just look at Big Ten football in general. Big Ten football has transpired to these teams running a spread offense and throwing the ball down the field. You look at some of these. Look at the recruits that Michigan and Ohio State are getting. These are 4-star, 5-star athletes that they're coming in. It's speed. Speed kills. Yes. And that's not what your quote unquote Big Ten football is normally revolved around, but now it's changed. It's changed, and buckle up the bootstraps, and because it's time to go. We're getting these top guys, and I have no problem with this program going a different way in regards to how they play. Because if you're okay with how we played the last 5-10 years, I mean, you're okay with being okay. No, we don't want to be okay. These guys don't come to Wisconsin to be okay. These guys want to produce. These guys want to be great football players. Yes. They want to go to a great program. So let's make it happen.
And the Wisconsin way has always been about greatness. At the end of the day, this is the way to get great, is to make these steps in today's college football landscape. So I want to take the last couple minutes that we have here and switch off of college football and onto DJing, because you have been, you've been out there. Anyone who follows you online knows about your DJing. It always fascinates me. I always, growing up, little Matt always thought he could he could scratch on the ones and twos, but there was no chance that he had any sense of rhythm whatsoever to do so. So my question is, how old were you when you first got into DJing, and how did this sort of come about as your, post NFL career?
So I've always been a huge fan of music, particularly 80s, 90s. And I randomly, I think it was after I came back from being released from the Saints, and I had a lot of friends in Milwaukee that owned venues. Essentially went out, bought the equipment, watched a ton of YouTube videos. And it started out me basically opening up for acts at these venues. So I played from 10 to 11, 10 to 12, and then the main act would go on. And to eventually me having my own night and continuing to do that, doing a lot of private events, weddings. It's now become a thing to DJ baby showers. I've done baby showers. So any private gig, I just love being able to, I want to be a guy that can play music and have the audience be like, man, I haven't heard this song in like 10 years. And just play feel good music, because I think music has plays such a toll on people's moods, people's personalities. I mean, you listen to some of these guys, some of these post-game interviews, and you hear the music blasting in the background, and Jimmy Cooks, these guys coming out to that, and these guys like walking out of the tunnel with all these flashing lights. And now it's music plays such a toll on people. And that was something that I wanted to do, in which I got into DJing, and I wanted to have an influence on people's moods. And I've continued to do it today. I mean,
so do you have obviously it's like, okay, you're trying to like uplift, like with your DJing, right? You're trying to like set the mood, set a good energy. What's your go-to then? What's do you have a go-to track or artist or album that you want to pull something from? Because if I was in your position, I'm sure, like for me, it would probably be something like the entire Stevie Wonder catalog just kind of does that for people, I feel. But what's your go-to there?
See, now you got me questioning. Are you trying to take my music and you trying to start a DJing career now? Because
no.
Okay,
I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I stick to the podcast. I'm gonna let you handle the music. I'm gonna stick to the podcast.
Okay, so I could say, like, if I'm doing like if we're dealing with, and this is the thing, is music has transpired to be so like it's almost like music that was popular 3 decades ago is still irrelevant. I mean, you got Ghost Town DJs, My Boo, that 5 years ago people just thought this song came out. I'm like, this has been out for a while. I play Dancing Queen, and that's a throwback, and people act as if this young generation acts as if it's a new song. I'm like, hold on a minute, hold on. So I don't know. I mean, Drake's album is awesome. Future, that's more of on the hip hop side. I love country music. Country music is probably my favorite genre. Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Chris Stapleton, Mitchell Tenpenny. Gotta love the classic, Shania, Reba. And it's just being versatile with music, and just being able to connect with every generation, I think is huge. And that's why I love DJing. That's why I love just seeing people on the dance floor and seeing people engage with my music, and whether it's dancing, singing, slow dancing. So yeah, those are probably my go-to. I don't want to give you too much information.
Okay, I love it. I absolutely love it, Travis. I grew up playing a lot of music, but classical music, that kind of stuff. But I always think it's fascinating because you're right, at a wedding or at whatever the event is, whatever the music is playing is going to set the mood for so much, even if you're not paying directly attention. It's the ambiance. It's about, the BPMs. It's about
okay. I see you doing your homework. The BPM. Okay.
I know. I've taken enough music theory to know, talk a little bit about this, but yeah, I always think it's really fascinating to, how that sort of establishes everything. Right. And that's why it's a question that I ask a lot of people who come on the podcast. What are you listening to right before you go on the field? Because I actually think that says a lot about who you are, or your mentality, at least. I think it's fascinating. You hear one of the most interesting responses that we got from that on the show. Colin Wilder said that he listens to praise music, to worship music, right before he goes on the field, to get like a serenity before. And I've heard a couple other guys say that too. And that is not, my experience from, I played very high level rugby for 10 years, but I listened to Rage Against the Machine before every single match I played in, because I'm
Yeah.
what I needed. But
Yeah. So you just wanted to run your head through a wall.
yeah, well, that was my
So
job. That was also my job.
yeah. See, and that's the thing is that I was that's going to come down to personal preference, and every player is different. And some people aren't going to like hip hop. Some people aren't going to like rock. Some people aren't going to like country music. So I think it's who you are as a person. It's what gets you going, because I think that music does play a huge toll on you. But at the same time, when you're running out of that tunnel and when you're running off on kickoff, like what's in your head is what it's all about, because they're not blasting music when you're playing, when you're catching a touchdown, when you're running into the end zone. You're not listening to music. Your mind plays so much of a toll of how successful you are and how great you can be. So your mind is the most powerful thing. Your mind is so much more powerful than music. Half the time when I'm running down on the field, say for instance, I'm running down on kickoff, I can't hear anything. Played at Penn State, played at Ohio State. I can't hear anything. So I think that's a personal preference. But I tell you one thing that will play a toll on you though is watching like the Samoans do that dance.
Oh, the haka, yeah.
When they all, oh my goodness, man! If that doesn't get you hyped,
oh, it gets you so hyped.
Man, I'm like, and I know that's like the Hawaiian thing to do or Samoan thing to do, but we need to start getting that going in America. Like, man, insane.
Well, if you live in the rugby world like I did for a long time, you see it
Really?
almost every weekend. Yeah,
Yeah.
Almost every weekend. It's pretty standard fare.
Yeah.
So you just got to get into rugby, Trav. You would have been. You would have been a heck of a rugby player, my friend. You would have been one heck of a rugby player. But
I've always men are different.
I love the when everyone always plays about, oh, what if like Allen Iverson played soccer, or what if LeBron James was a goalie, or whatever sports. There's so many great football players who would have been just like the most incredible rugby players that I could possibly imagine. But all right, well, with that, we're gonna wrap it up here today, Travis. Thanks for tuning in. Travis, thank you so much for being here as always. And this has been the Believe in Badger Football podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by betonline.ag. And until next time, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin, baby.
Go.